So as we've been reporting, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, is facing a backlash from across the political divide after confirming he won't scrap the Conservatives' two-child benefit cap if his party comes to power. The SNP's Westminster leader, Stephen Flynn, has described the decision as utterly shameful. There's been condemnation too from some quarters of Sir Keir's own party. Well, Dame Jacke Baillie is Deputy Leader of Scottish Labour. She joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Gary.
Are you embarrassed by this?
No, look, Scottish Labour have a very clear position on this. We've not changed that position, and we remain completely opposed to the two-child benefit cap because, we know it damages families. We know it exacerbates poverty. My understanding of what Keir Starmer was saying is that they are worried about the financial mess that we will inherit from the Tories.
Well, indeed, Hannah Sarwar agreed with that yesterday. Well, he said that this could spook the markets, leading to a repeat of the catastrophe surrounding Liz Truss's mini budget. Today in the Daily Record, he seems to have changed his mind. That's a U-turn upon a U-turn.
Not at all. There is absolutely a recognition, as there should be amongst responsible politicians, that we're not going to be able to do everything immediately.
So you agree with Keir Starmer's position on this,
then? Let me finish. We recognise we can't do everything immediately, and my understanding is Keir Starmer doesn't want to make pledges that he cannot then deliver on, and I think that's really important.
So that's a position that you agree with. You want to abolish this, but you agree with the principle that it shouldn't be abolished because Labour can't afford it.
No, let me say that we don't know the financial mess that the Tories have left the country in. We need to be responsible about the pledges we make. I am very clear, Scottish Labour are very clear. We remain opposed to the two-child benefit cap, and I will do everything in my power to encourage my party to do exactly that.
You don't need to do anything in your power, Jacke Baillie. What you need to do is enact what your party said it would do in 2019. Let me read from your manifesto. We will stop 300,000 children from being in poverty by scrapping the benefit cap and the two-child limit and end the immoral and outrageous rape clause, as it has been dubbed. That was the manifesto that Keir Starmer stood on in 2019.
Absolutely, and I remain committed to that.
But why doesn't
the party has agreed to reform universal credit, and I would expect the two-child benefit cap as part of that process. It'll be examined as part of that process. But I'm very clear. In Scotland, it would take 80,000 children that would have an impact on them. It would cost £250 million. We all care about tackling child poverty. The SNP in Scotland have the power and the opportunity to change this. They haven't changed it so far. And that is the disappointing thing, because we could have ended that cap in Scotland almost immediately.
The cap reminds me of communist China's morally abhorrent one-child policy. Now even the Chinese have abolished that. Perhaps the Tories can bring themselves to follow China's example and abolish the two-child cap. Who said that?
I did, and I stand by my words exactly.
So Keir Starmer is backing a policy that reminds you of communist China.
Let me say to you, it was something that communist China did, but let me say to you, it was wrong as a policy then, it's wrong as a policy now. I think that applies equally to the two-child benefit cap. I'm not going to change my mind on that. I think this damages families, it exacerbates poverty.
It also damages Labour's credibility, doesn't it? When Keir Starmer, having stood on a manifesto saying he would abolish it, has now U-turned on this. Over £1.3 billion, which in terms of the UK-wide budget that he would inherit is frankly a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
Let me say to you very clearly that we remain opposed to the two-child benefit cap. It is the case at a UK level that my colleagues are very worried about the financial mess that we will inherit from the Tories, and they don't want to make promises that they then can't deliver on. That's critically important. But can I say
so hang on just a second. No, just a second. Just one second. The logical conclusion of what you've just said is that Labour will make absolutely no spending pledges ahead of this election because it will not know anything about the policy that it will inherit. So it will make spending pledges, but the reality is it will make choices, and this is not a choice that it's willing to make, is it?
To be honest, you're well out from a manifesto process. We will set out very clearly in that manifesto process what we will do.
It was clear in your last manifesto that Keir Starmer stood on.
Yeah, but I am very clear about what we need to do going into the future. I'm also very clear about the financial mess that we've been left with. But let me say to you, in terms of the scale of this, if we care about tackling child poverty in Scotland, which we do, we voted for a parliament to be able to do things differently. That's what devolution is all about. The SNP have the opportunity to end the child
But with
benefit cap.
respect, Jacke Baillie, you keep telling us that you're a unionist because you care about children in all parts of the UK. What you seem to be saying is that the Scottish Government should do something about this, but actually Labour shouldn't do anything about those children who live in other parts of the UK.
That's not at all what I'm saying. That's not at all what I'm saying, Gary. And the reality is we all voted for devolution because we believe the Scottish Parliament could take different decisions, could do things differently. If the SNP cared as much about this as they profess to do, they could have done something about it by now. At a cost of £250 million, which, to be frank with you, that extra money that we've spent on 2 delayed ferries sitting in Greenock could have been used to actually fund this policy.
So let's just be clear
That's
then. Let's just be clear on what your position is. Come the next Scottish election, the Labour manifesto in Scotland will say that it will mitigate what potentially could be the Labour Party's policy at Westminster, a policy that even the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions describes as heinous. You will mitigate. You will do what you're asking the Scottish Government to do now. You will mitigate.
Let me say to you, I don't think we'll need to mitigate it because we will have convinced colleagues in UK Labour to scrap the 2-child benefit cap. We need to make sure that there is enough money to do that and to sustain that policy. We will do it, but we will ensure that our UK colleagues do it for every child across Britain.
What does this tell us about the influence or lack of influence that Anas Sarwar and you wield within the Labour Party?
We have considerable influence in the Labour Party in the UK.
Not on this issue.
Well, no, we've got a clear policy position on this issue. We've had discussions with them since. We will continue to have discussions with colleagues in the UK.
What have they said to you?
There is a national policy forum process that continues. We're likely to feed into that. And there are discussions on a range of issues, from everything from growing the economy to social security. And I'm sure that this issue will arise there as well. We will continue to have discussions with colleagues across the UK. But, you know, we are responsible for our own policy in Scotland. We are very clear about what our position is, and that remains.
But when the Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, Jonathan Ashworth, was saying just a few days ago that this policy was heinous, who's actually deciding the policy? You talk about a process here, but it's just Keir Starmer and potentially Rachel Reeves who are deciding your policy at the moment, isn't it?
Well, no, there is a national policy forum process that is well set out, that involves shadow cabinet members, it involves the leader, the deputy leader, the shadow chancellor, all of them involved in that discussion and engagement. That leads to the manifesto process, where you rightly point out people make choices about what they stand for. The Labour Party is setting out its 5 missions that it will prioritise in government. We intend to see that through. But you cannot escape the fact that we are inheriting an economic mess. The Tories have caused chaos. They've exacerbated the cost of living crisis. I know people who can't afford their mortgages now. What we want to do is provide fairness, opportunity. We want to grow the economy, to invest in the country and in our services, but we need to do so responsibly. Tackling the 2-child benefit cap remains a priority for the Scottish Labour Party, and we are convinced that once we understand the financial position and grow the economy, it will be a priority for the UK Labour Party too.
Dame Jacke Baillie, Deputy Leader of Scottish Labour, thank you very much for your time with both.